Okay. We've been experimenting with mobile control, so it's only through a web interface rather than through a multi-touch app. But you can manage the organisation of digital resources with a tablet or, in this case, an iPad. As we realised that what was happening with the teacher desk was it was locking the teacher at the back of the classroom. So we wanted a way that the teacher could interact more easily with different groups, so we went down that sort of mobile route. And also what we can do with the iPad, this is from a mathematics task where the kids are generating expressions to hit a given target number. We can give a readout to the teacher so they can see who's doing correct and incorrect expressions as they're going, so they can monitor. Because one of the pieces of feedback we've had from teachers is that a lot of practice in schools is driven by assessment. Unless we can show how multi-touch technology can help assess children, it's going to be very hard to embed it in schools in the current climate. Slightly depressing, but I think very realistic. Actually, this is probably a good point, Emma, for you to talk about shared representation, because you've just finished the analysis on this.
This is so one of the tasks we've been working on is this idea of mysteries. I'll be talking about it for the last day, and Steve referred to it, where kids get a question, a number of clues to try and find the answer. And some of these are divergent tasks, so a history task where there's multiple different types of answers they can come to, and then more to the standard math task where they're trying to actually come to the correct answer. And what you're seeing here is a task called inner disasters. It's a logic reasoning task, one of the areas of maths that kids really need to develop, but it's not, I'm right in saying it's not assessed, right? So
yes, so there may be one question in the SATs every 3 years. Or
yeah, so we don't see kids being taught a lot, but obviously logical reasoning is a huge starting place to solving maths problems. Not a big fan of this one any longer because I've spent the last couple of weeks looking at it. And it's kids trying to sort out which dinner each child should get. Whoever picked the food picked pizza and cheeseburgers and all the rest of it, which is killing my diet. But so the kids basically, the 5 clues. This is not the version I've been looking at. It was just text-based, the one I've been looking at, where Mike doesn't like yogurt, which is the food he's got. You've got to work out. Grace, yogurt's the only thing she likes on the menu, but she has salad. Ruby only likes vegetables, so she gets a salad. So kids have to sort of connect the clues to each other. I know this far too well. This is making sense? Yeah, so Grace gets the yogurt. And so it's trying to make the links. And the easiest way to do it on this table is to make a circular arrangement. So Mike's yogurt, the next clue is Grace with the salad, because Grace gets the yogurt. Ruby comes next with it. I actually got my names wrong, but Ruby gets the salad, and you do it so it comes all the way back around to Mike getting pizza at the very end. What we're seeing, which is really nice to actually finish the encoding of this, the groups who use the table find the answer. So when they actually use the table to externalize their group's representation of the problem, they get to the final solution. Groups who tend not to, who just read the clues and kind of leave them messy, are not using them to support their external thinking, to externalize their thinking, are not actually coming to a solution. It's a really nice split in the data. When you see that so one of the issues with collaborative groups is we can be talking about something, but where are we keeping a record of it, and how do I know that you're on the same page as me? How are you? Whereas if I put Mike's clue right beside Grace's clue, we're all in agreement that Grace is getting Mike's yogurt. And so this is one of the things that we know from research and collaboration. External representations are incredibly important. And this is giving the kids a way to use this external representation and share their ideas. This is actually a version of it that we've just started playing around with. The initial text-based version was to compare it to paper-based. And here we've given the kids get the clues. This is actually year 5 task, and the task is designed for year 6. So instead of just getting text-based clues, after a few minutes they then get pictures of the kids, well, cartoon pictures with names on them, and pictures of the food. If you
explain more what you mean with paper, please.
Oh, just bits of paper chopped up.
So they didn't manipulate or...
They just manipulate paper. Yeah, so what we first started to say is, what's different between multi-touch and paper?
They could have done that as well.
They could do it as well, but they tend not to use them. They tend to own pieces of paper.
They tend to own them and not use them in a shared space. And that's one of the features of multi-touch, partly because of the plane surface, keeps things so you can't pick them up and hold them. But also they tend to use, by recruiting joint attention, they tend to focus and share the object on the table surface, whereas they don't tend to share pieces of paper. Yeah, I mean, you can criticise our research in some ways in terms of the nature of the task. So we started off by comparing paper and multi-touch, and then we moved on to do things in multi-touch you can't do with paper. But we wanted to start on a baseline of comparison, so we kind of understood what some of the differences were between multi-touch and classroom environment. These are effectively containers that they can contain multimedia, video, PowerPoint presentations, PDFs. So we can do kind of more complex tasks. It's just when you're controlling variables for the experiment, we wanted to nail it down a bit.
And this is where we are seeing the idea that the table is a shared space, so what's on it is shared ownership, presumably.
Maybe this isn't important, but does the software on the table actually do anything other than allow you to move tiles around?
Well, on the table, there's limited functionality in terms of what it does for multi-touch. In the classroom, there's the orchestration of those resources around the room.
Sure, but you keep saying that multi-touch brings something else to this, but maybe you've just not explained this enough for me to grasp it, but what is the multi-touch table there giving you that
the
a
way
computer wouldn't?
So joint control and joint attention, I would argue, is what you're seeing. So when you see this in paper-based groups, so we've done this with groups with bits of paper on the table. They dole out cards, pick them up, they read them. There's no joint attention. There's no sense of joint ownership. Here, anyone can grab the clues. When you compare this to mouse control, there's a whole lot of research on groups working with single touch entry, where they have to coordinate who's in charge. So we're seeing a lot less.
And they resize,
organizational conversations.
rotate, and position jointly.
No, I get all that. I think maybe I'm thinking you could do so much more with the table, and is it just that you're doing things so incrementally?
We're doing things incrementally, and there are specific things we wanted to look at between paper and multi-touch that we want to investigate, like joint attention. We've got another design experiment which uses home expert groups, where we've got multimedia materials where groups have to develop expertise in a particular knowledge set and then share them and move the resources around between tables and indicate salience.
But effectively, the only affordance you're given with the table is being able to move and resize stuff around, right? It's just spatial manipulation.
Anyone being able to do it.
Yeah,
yeah.
but
is a huge change.
all of your apps or tasks or whatever they are,
all the ones you see here. Yes.
Yeah, because that's all the ones you've shown us, right? They are just media tiles.
No,
moving them around.
We have a series of other apps. We've chosen these because we think it brings out the features of collaboration, joint attention, joint focus. We've got another activity I wasn't going to talk about, NumberNet, we can talk about it, which the one that you saw the screenshot of the feedback on, there kids have to generate totals for a given target number using a numeric keypad. And then at the end of that, they have to find associations and patterns using a networking, a bit like your string pictures. So they can use we are trying to use a variety of features of multi-touch.
Yeah. I think one of
this is a restricted set of
one of
features.
the other things I think we're missing out on, which if you're not in classrooms, you probably won't understand the importance of being able to take this from the table to the whole class to display it, so that groups can then have fun. So it's the multi-touch is absolutely not happening at that point. It's just a technical aspect of it. But we're not. Is it fair enough to say we're not that interested in multi-touch? We're interested in collaborative learning and supporting it in classrooms. And this, for me, is a nice vehicle to do it.
Well, it seems to me what the big strength about this, as far as I can see from the is this better than paper, is the fact you can't pick things up. So it's in fact, what makes it powerful is what you can't do.
The constraint.
A constraint. Well, and also if you look at the distribution of resources, when you compare the time it takes to run tasks on paper, it's about 25% longer than it is in multi-touch. So there's an efficiency gain as well, although that wasn't one of the things we were looking at. We were hoping for higher order thinking gains, and actually we're finding efficiency gains.
Although we're also seeing higher order thinking as well.
Yeah.
The fact that you, as the teacher, can monitor also from a different location.
And manipulate, so the teacher can intervene and manipulate what's on a table from their own table, or you can give another table the opportunity to manipulate what's on the main board. So you can model group processes with multi-touch in a different way, I think. Yeah, sorry.
So I think the important thing then would be to figure out which constraints and which affordances are actually supportive of which kind of tasks or collaborative
Yes, I'd agree with you there.
activities.
If we had a decent taxonomy of tasks,
Yeah.
but we haven't, and I think that's true across CSCL as a whole.
But I think you're getting, with experiments like
Yeah.
that, you're getting more of an idea where you could say,
And
well,
we-
if you want something like that,
And yes, you don't
stay on
want
that
you don't
paper.
want 4 children sitting around the table working on their own individual screen space just because it's a tabletop. You want them. You could do that. You could kind of create a private space and a shared space in the middle. But its benefit is in collaborative work. So you probably want to do individual work away from the table and use the table to share rather than do everything on the table. But we heard about that yesterday. It's a digital ecology, isn't it, that we're working towards, and we're doing a little bit of that ecology, I think. Yeah.
Are you able to identify the individual children that are doing things?
No. There's no. Well, it depends. On NumberNet we can, because they have numeric keypads that have their name on and that they can personalise in some way. But it does rely on them sticking to using their own keypad. In this task, no, we can't, and that's why we've got the videos.
Yeah.
And we specifically didn't go into technology that allows that.
Yeah.
Or allows / requires kids to stay seated. Like as you even in this picture, the kids are actually staying still because you want them to be engaged in the task and moving around. And a really good collaborative task. Nobody knows who did what at the end of it.
I'll skip through these pretty quickly, so I think come back to us if you've got questions. I'm just aware we're running out of time, and I'd like to demonstrate the research tool that we've been using. If people are interested in interdisciplinary research, it's a strand of the work that we're doing, and there are issues about as each discipline takes the lead at different parts of the process. We've avoided scripting interaction, which the Mysteries work at Newcastle has looked at kind of scripting stages, and I could talk about and defend the decisions that we've gone for unscripted. And then there are issues about when I think it's putting your kind of plumb line down. When do you stop and do your experimentation? And some people think we're being too cautious and we should make bigger leaps. But we're interested in locating it not just in the technology literature, we're interested in locating it in the collaboration literature and education. So there are a series of constraints that limits, I think, the way our project progresses.